Hello everyone, in this session I will discuss about the remote sensing. These are the contents which are going to be discussed here. In the remote sensing, the electromagnetic waves are used. Hence, we must know the basic characteristic features of these electromagnetic waves. So these electromagnetic waves which are created as a result of vibrations between an electric field and a magnetic field. So they consist of oscillations as you can observe in the diagram. In fact, these oscillations which are created by the electric and magnetic field, and these oscillations are mutually perpendicular to each other. So this is regarding the basic introduction regarding the electromagnetic waves. Any body or any object which is on the earth having the body temperature greater than 0 degree Kelvin, that is minus 273 degrees centigrade, emits electromagnetic energy. Now, some of the characteristic of these electromagnetic waves we can study here. First one is nothing but the frequency. Property number one, frequency. So the frequency is nothing but, so this is a measure of number of waves which are propagated during a given time interval. So there is nothing but, for example, in this second figure it is highlighted. The time interval is taken 1 second. We can count how many number of waves which are propagating or which are traveling in this during this interval. So if you take the example 3 hertz, 6 hertz, 12 hertz, so as the frequency increases, the number of waves which are propagated during this time interval of 1 second also will increase. The unit of frequency is nothing but hertz. The next one is nothing but the wavelength. So wavelength is the physical length from one point of a wave to the same point on the next wave. For example, if you take this particular wave, wave number 1 and wave number 2, if you mark the crest point of one wave, again same the crest point of another wave, if you point or if you mark, then if you measure the physical length between these two crest points, then that itself is going to be termed as wavelength, and it is indicated with the symbol lambda and is measured in meters. The amplitude is the height of the wave. Amplitude is nothing but the height of the wave, which is indicated in the third diagram, which is a function of power of this electromagnetic waves. So that is regarding the three important definitions of the characteristics of electromagnetic waves. Now the properties of electromagnetic waves are given here. So there are number of properties which the electromagnetic wave can possess. So number one, electromagnetic waves can travel with a constant velocity of 3 into 10 to the power of 8 meter per second in vacuum. Second one, electromagnetic waves are not deflected by electric or magnetic field. Third one, electromagnetic waves can show interference or diffraction. Number four, electromagnetic waves are transverse waves. Number five, electromagnetic waves are may be polarized. So electromagnetic waves may be polarized. So these oscillations due to electric field as well as magnetic field, so which can be made polarized, So that is nothing but their orientation can be made into a particular direction. So it is called as polarization. So that can be done here in the case of the electromagnetic waves. Then electromagnetic waves need no medium of propagation. So even they can travel in vacuum also. And the last one, the wavelength lambda and the frequency v of the electromagnetic waves is related as c is equal to v into lambda, where c is nothing but the velocity of the wave. So this is regarding the basic properties of electromagnetic waves. Now the next one is regarding the electromagnetic spectrum. Electromagnetic spectrum. So if we take the electromagnetic waves, there are several wavelength ranges of these electromagnetic waves. If we arrange these waves according to their frequency or wavelength, then that pattern is going to be called as electromagnetic spectrum. So here in this figure, you can observe the electromagnetic spectrum which is given here. So this direction which gives the increasing order of the frequency, and this direction if you move, it will move according to the increasing order of the wavelength. So there are number of electromagnetic waves which are included here: gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet rays, visible light, infrared rays, microwave, radio waves, and long radio waves which are indicated. So here 0.4 to 0.7 micrometer, which is called as the visible spectrum. Visible spectrum. So here the second figure, so which tells you the wavelength ranges of the electromagnetic waves which are useful for our remote sensing. So first is visible spectrum, so 0.4 to 0.7 micrometer. Reflected infrared band 0.7 to 3 micrometer. Thermal infrared band 3 to 5 micrometers. 8 to 40 micrometers. Similarly microwave and radar waves, so 1 mm to 300 mm. So these are useful for our remote sensing. Now the electromagnetic waves, as they propagate through the atmosphere, various interactions takes place with the elements which are present in the atmosphere. So this is understood by taking the interactions of electromagnetic radiation with the atmosphere. So that can be better understood. So if we study the interactions of these radiation with the atmosphere. So there are three basic phenomena takes place when the electromagnetic radiation passes through the atmosphere, namely scattering, absorption, and transmission. Scattering is nothing but redirection of the electromagnetic radiation from its original path. Absorption is nothing but retention of electromagnetic radiation by molecules in the atmosphere. And transmission is nothing but passing of electromagnetic radiation through the atmosphere. So this is very much important for us. Now the scattering. So scattering occurs when the particles of large gas molecules present in the atmosphere interact with and cause the electromagnetic radiation to be redirected from its original path. So scattering in the sense redirected. So the incident radiation is going to be redirected by the presence of these gas molecules which are present in the atmosphere. So oftenly this scattering depends on three important factors, namely wavelength of the radiation, abundance of these particles or gases in the atmosphere, distance of the radiation travels through the atmosphere. So this is regarding the important factors on which the scattering is dependent. For a visible wavelength, nearly about 100% to 5% of energy received by the sensor is directly contributed by the atmosphere. So we can understand what is the significant importance of the interactions of electromagnetic radiations with the atmosphere. So if you take scattering, there are three different types of scatterings, namely Rayleigh scattering, Mie scattering, and non-selective scattering. So in the figure, the phenomenon of scattering is depicted. So this is a cover of which indicates the atmospheric cover, atmosphere surrounding the earth. So there the presence of the large gas molecules in the atmosphere. So as the incident radiation, the electromagnetic radiation passes through this particular medium, so due to the presence of these large gas molecules, so the scattering is observed in different directions. So this is regarding the phenomenon. Now the Rayleigh scattering. So Rayleigh scattering occurs when the diameter of the particles, which is relatively smaller than the wavelength of the incident electromagnetic radiation. So small specks of dust, that means the small particles of accumulations of dust or nitrogen and oxygen, so which are responsible for this Rayleigh scattering. So this is very much important. Rayleigh scattering causes shorter wavelengths of the energy to be scattered much more than the longer wavelength. So in the visible spectrum, as I indicated in the previous slides, so there are three basic primary bands which the human eye can sense. So which is nothing but blue, green and red. So from 0.4 to 0.7 micron. So blue is having the wavelength which is smaller compared to the red. Red is at the higher range. So due to the Rayleigh scattering, the band which is having the shorter wavelength, so blue is going to be scattered much more compared to the red. So this is the reason why the sky appears blue during the day, as the there are millions of gas particles or which are dust particles which are there in the atmosphere. So the blue light or the blue band which scatters more. So as the scattering is more due to the presence of these smaller specks in the atmosphere, so we can see or we can sense the sky as it is having the blue color or bluish. So this is regarding one of the reason. So now again, if we apply another phenomenon due to which the color of the sky at the sunset or sunrise, which is red in color. So the reason for this is nothing but during this sunset or sunrise, sun will be at horizon. So these electromagnetic waves have to travel longer distance. So as the blue band which scatters more compared to the red band, ultimately during this travel path the scattered blue light which will be lost, and since the red light or the red band which scatters less, directly it can reach into our eyes, so that we can see or we can sense that the sky is red during sunset or sunrise. So this is the reason. Then the second one is nothing but Mie scattering. So Mie scattering occurs when the diameter of the particles which is almost equal to wavelength of the electromagnetic radiation. So the dust, presence of smoke and water vapor in the atmosphere which are responsible for this type of scattering. So here the in the Mie scattering, the longer wavelengths which are going to be scattered more than those which are affected by Rayleigh scattering. Okay, so this is very much important fact. So regarding the Mie scattering, longer wavelengths which are going to be affected here than those which are affected by the Rayleigh scattering. So this Mie scattering occurs mostly in the lower portion of the atmosphere where the larger particles are more abundant. Here Mie scattering, which is very much important, by the virtue of which the color of the cloud which is appear to be white. This is due to the fact that the clouds which contain the water vapors normally, so the size of these water vapors may be equivalent to the wavelength of the electromagnetic radiation. So when the electromagnetic radiation passes through this particular portion of the cloud, the longer wavelengths which are going to be scattered more under this Mie scattering phenomenon. So as I indicated in the previous slide that in the visible spectrum blue, green, red will be there. So red is having the longer wavelength, blue is having the shorter wavelength. So blue is scattered more in the Rayleigh scattering. Now here in this case of the Mie scattering, longer wavelength, that means the red band it is going to be scattered more. Now due to the combination of, so this or combined effect of the Rayleigh scattering along with the Mie scattering, so we can able to see the white light or a visible light which is coming from the cloud after scattering. So therefore we can able to see or sense the cloud as white in color. So this is regarding the importance of Mie scattering. So the next one is nothing but the non-selective scattering. So here if the diameter of the particle which is very much greater than the wavelength of the electromagnetic radiation, then the non-selective scattering takes place. Furthermore, the presence of the water droplets and large dust particles, so which are present in the atmosphere, which are responsible for this non-selective scattering. Specifically, this non-selective scattering, it gets its name from the fact that all the wavelengths are scattered about equally. So this occurs when the particles are much larger than the wavelength of the radiation. So water droplets and large dust particles can cause this type of the scattering. So particularly these particles, the water droplets or the water vapor which is having the diameter which is greater than the wavelength which is present inside the cloud. So as the the electromagnetic waves passes through this particular cluster of the clouds, so this whatever the diameter of the particles, due to which the equal scattering is observed all around. Equal scattering is observed all around. So therefore, a dense cloud, or it is nothing but a cloudy weather, so which is not suitable for the remote sensing, due to the fact that almost all the radiation, all the waves, all the incident waves of the electromagnetic spectrum which are going to be scattered. Therefore, we can't able to get the image on the earth. So this is regarding the importance of non-selective scattering. Now the absorption. So absorption is nothing but the main mechanism when the electromagnetic radiation interacts with the atmosphere. So here the presence of the gaseous molecules which are present in the atmosphere can absorb the energy at various wavelengths. So there are three major atmospheric constituents which can absorb the radiation, namely ozone, carbon dioxide and water vapor. Ozone, which absorbs the harmful ultraviolet radiation from the sun, as you know. Carbon dioxide absorbs the radiation strongly in the far infrared portion of the spectrum. Similarly, water vapor in the atmosphere can absorb much of the incoming long wave infrared and short wave microwave radiations. So this is regarding the three major constituents which can absorb the electromagnetic radiation. So last one is nothing but the transmission. So the part of the electromagnetic radiation after being scattered and absorbed by the atmospheric constituents, the remaining portion which will be transmitted and reaches to the earth. So this is going to be called as the transmission. The process is going to be called as transmission. So oftenly this transmission or the transmittance is expressed as a ratio of transmitted energy to the input energy. That means the energy which is related to the electromagnetic waves, and this transmittance is expressed in terms of percentage always. So in the figure, the variation of the transmittance with the wavelength which is indicated here, as we can observe from this figure, that the water which is present in the atmosphere can able to transmit the waves of somewhere 18 to 20 or 21 odd micrometer wavelength. So this is the transmittance we can read from this, almost above 50% only the transmittance. Similarly, we can read ozone, which is capable of transmitting the wavelength in the range 8 to almost 13 micrometer. Similarly, carbon dioxide we can get in the 4 micrometer, which is maximum transmittance through the carbon dioxide. Similarly, water and carbon dioxide combiningly, they can transmit about 100%. So if the wavelength is lesser than 3 micrometer. So this is regarding the transmittance versus wavelength. the relationship. Now, the atmospheric windows as the transmission in the transmission, the term atmospheric window is used to describe the wavelength of transmitted electromagnetic waves through the atmosphere. So we must know now regarding the atmospheric window. So here our atmosphere is capable of transmitting certain specific wavelengths of electromagnetic waves or certain specific electromagnetic waves. So here the figure which indicates in this, say, visible window, infrared windows, microwave windows, radio wave windows, which are indicated here along with the wavelength. So for example, radio wave, if you take, say, almost 5 centimeter, okay, from this to, say, about greater than 10 meter, or we can take roughly 10 meter. So there is a transparency, that is nothing but our atmosphere is capable of transmitting the radio waves. So this is called as radio window. Like that, so we can define the wavelengths for microwave window, infrared windows, as well as visible windows. Now the interaction of electromagnetic radiation with the Earth's surface. So the radiation that is not absorbed or scattered in the atmosphere can reach and interact with the Earth's surface. When the electromagnetic energy is incident on any given surface feature on the Earth, three fundamental energy interactions are possible, which are absorption, transmission, and reflection. The portion of each which will dependent upon, again, the wavelength of the energy incident radiation, angle at which the radiation interact with the surface, and roughness of the material and the condition of the feature. So these are the various influencing factors. So this figure which depicts the various interactions of electromagnetic radiations with the Earth's surface, namely absorption, transmission, and reflection. So number one, reflection. So there are two types of reflection, namely specular or mirror-like reflection, and second one is nothing but the diffuse or Lambertian reflection. So specular or mirror-like reflection in the sense, when the electromagnetic radiation is incident on the particular surface, so the reflected rays or the reflected radiation which will be having a definite angle or a specific angle. So being the direction of the reflected radiation is same, or it is reflected in the single direction. So this is called as specular or mirror-like reflection. The second one is nothing but diffuse or Lambertian reflection, which occurs when the surface is rough and the energy is reflected in almost uniformly in all the possible directions. So for example, there is a tree. This is the incident radiation of the electromagnetic waves. Now the reflected waves, as you can see, it is almost uniformly in all the direction which is observed. So that is called as diffuse or Lambertian reflection. Next one is nothing but absorption. So absorption is the process where the portion of the incident energy is going to be retained or absorbed by the objects on the Earth's surface. It can be defined as the percentage of the ratio between the absorbed to the incident energy. Absorbed energy divided by incident energy. Again, which can be expressed as percentage. This absorbed energy, which is stored by the Earth's surface objects, which is utilized in heating of the matter or to increase the temperature of that particular body, or which may be released later in the form of infrared radiation at longer wavelengths. So this is regarding the absorption. Similarly, the last one is nothing but transmission. So transmission occurs when the radiation passes through an object without the significant attenuation. So attenuation in the sense, so there is no much improvement in the wavelength, not much improvement in the frequency. So this is called as the transmission. So the transmittance can be defined as the ratio of transmitted energy to the incident energy. So this again, which can be expressed in terms of percentage. So in our nature, water is an example of a good transmitter on the Earth's surface. So which can transmit the incident radiation, incident electromagnetic radiation to other body like rock or like the soil, etc., which are present in the inside the water body. So that is regarding the transmission which is carried by the water. So transmission through the material media of different densities, for example air to water, water to soil, causes radiation to be refracted or deflected from the straight line path with an accompanying change in its velocity and the wavelength, where the frequency will be almost constant. So normally during this transmission from one body to another body, so there will be change in the velocity and wavelength normally. So the frequency is almost constant. So this is regarding the transmission. Now the next one is nothing but the spectral reflectance curve. Spectral reflectance curve. So the spectral reflectance, which is very much important in understanding the remote sensed images or the images which are obtained after carrying out the remote sensing over a particular area. So reflectance is taken as the ratio of reflectance radiation to the incident radiation, again which is expressed in terms of percentage or which may be expressed in the range from 0 to 1. So usually the equipment to measure this reflectance is called as spectrometer. Spectrometer. So by measuring the energy that is reflected or emitted by the target on the Earth's surface over the variety of different wavelengths, it is possible to create a spectral response for that particular object. For example, vegetation, if you take, it is having particular spectral response. If you take soil, if you take rock, if you take any other material which are found on the Earth's surface, which will be having certain definite spectral response. By studying this definite spectral response, we can able to identify or distinguish these objects which are present on the Earth's surface. A graph of spectral reflectance, which is which is going to be given as an illustration here. Before that, we must know the bands which are used in capturing or in creating that particular graph. So the geostationary satellite Landsat 4-5 series, which were launched by NASA, so captured the images which are called as thematic mapper or thematic mapper images, which consists of 7 spectral bands. So starting from band 1 to band 7 of different wavelengths, there you can visualize. So here among these different bands, band 6 is not used. Why? Because the spatial resolution is larger, or the coarser spatial resolution it has. So band 6 is avoided. So other than that, all the bands were included. And particularly there is the additional information that I want to share. So the Landsat 4-5 series, which was having approximate scene size of about 170 kilometer north south by 183 kilometer east west. So this is the size of the earth which is going to be sensed by this particular satellite with the resolution, spatial resolution of 30 meters. In fact, the spatial resolution that I will discuss in the next upcoming slides. So if you go through this particular spectral response figure, so band 1, band 2, band 3, band 4, band 5 and band 6 is avoided as I indicated in the previous slide, and band 7. So where band 1, band 2, band 3 are of visible spectrum, as you can see from almost 0.4 to 0.7 micrometer, which is of visible spectrum, so namely blue, green and red bands. Fourth one belongs to the near infrared. Fifth one belongs to short wave infrared, and seventh also belongs to the short wave infrared. In fact, the higher wavelength. Now the interesting fact here is that so there are different spectral response curves are plotted here. For example, if you take the altered rock, so altered rock which is indicated with the black curve. So this altered rock, in order to visualize or in order to interpret the altered rock on the earth surface, we must use fifth band, which belongs to the short wave infrared. And there you can see the reflectance is almost 45%. So as it is having the higher reflectance percentage, so in the better way you can interpret the image. Similarly, if there is a soil or the strata which is existing on the earth surface, so we must use the seventh band, so in the short wave infrared region, in order to interpret very easily, as it is having again higher reflectance percentage. Now if you are interested to visualize or observe the healthy vegetation or vegetation cover on the earth surface, we must use fourth band which is in the near infrared region. So there almost 40% you can get the reflectance. Other than that, the reflectance is very much lesser. So due to the lesser reflectance, So if you are using the visible spectrum in order to visualize this healthy vegetation, you won't recognize this healthy vegetation using the visible spectrum. So this is the importance of this spectral response. Again, the last one, clear water. So clear water, there you can see. So the clear water which can give you the best possible resolution, or it is nothing but in the best possible manner you can distinguish if you use the visible spectrum in order to visualize this. Furthermore, if you use near infrared radiation, there you can see the reflectance is very much less. So similarly in the case of the water with the phytoplankton, so there also the the water which is having the impurities, or the vegetative cover which is unnecessarily grown, so which may be not good, the water may not be good to drink. So that type of the water which can be characterized if you use the visible spectrum, particularly maybe the second band. Say second band is nothing but green band if you use, so we can able to bifurcate between the clear water and the turbid or the impure water. So this is the importance of the spectral response of the various surface features on the earth. Thank you.